evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Roberts. Welcome to the July 3rd edition of Effective, Efficient, Affordable, and above all, accountable to you. I am joined again this evening by John Gallagher. John, welcome.
Thank you, James.
The subjects of this evening's show will be essentially threefold. We will take a quick review of what happened at yesterday's Board of Selectmen meeting. We will take a quick review of the mechanics of the upcoming budget referendum on July the 21st. And I want to give you a quick primer on how the Board of Education views money. What is their opinion of money? To put it simply and shortly, because it's your money, I beg your pardon, because it's your money, they don't care. They're happy to spend it. They're happy to waste it. They don't want to account for it. They just want to get it. That is the Board of Education's view of money. That will permeate a number of aspects of this evening's show. Let's start out with the mechanics of the referendum, what's going on, when it happens, how you vote, all of the good stuff.
Pearson School on the 21st of July, Saturday the 21st, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Any registered voter can go in and vote on the budget. Any property owner of $1,000 or more can go in as a property owner and vote on the budget. So you don't have to be a registered voter, you just have to be a property owner. If you want to vote absentee, absentee ballots are available at the town clerk's office. Town clerk is open, I believe, from 8 to 4:30, later on Thursday night, I think till 7, and then half a day on Friday. So you can walk into the town clerk's office, you can ask for an absentee ballot application, you can fill out the application, turn it in right there, she'll print up a ballot for you, you can take it in the back room and vote, and you can come back and hand it in, and you're done. If you need to do it by mail, get going. The delay essentially is approximately 1 week, so if you're trying to do it within the last week by mail, it's a tricky thing to do, and it probably won't get there in time.
So that's the bottom line of how you vote. In terms of who can vote, any registered voter can vote. Any property owner here in town can vote, and we urge you to do so. An educated voter is at the core of our form of government here in Connecticut. The budget, just to give you the thumbnail sketch, calls for a tax increase of almost $1 million. That is focused primarily on the town. We will get into what is included in that, but the short answer is very, very little. If such a budget were to pass, it would be the second budget out of 3 years with a sizable tax increase in it. 2 years ago, we had a $600,000 increase, a tax increase. Can you, John, remember what we got for that $600,000?
The problem with a general budget such as we have is that you have the ability, essentially it's salaries and benefits, but the Board of Selectmen has the ability after April to shift line items, and the Board of Education seems to do it all the time. So, you know, once you vote on it, it may or may not get there. I mean, if everybody's talking streets or capital improvements, that stuff has to go in a separate referendum. That way the funds are sequestered and they go towards whatever you vote for there, whether it be to fix a road, to build a bridge, you know, improve a building. Take it to a referendum, isolate it, and go from there.
Bottom line, 2 years ago you had a tax increase. I don't think anyone in this town could figure out what they got for it. This tax increase proposed this time around, almost $1 million. Once again, not much in there other than trucks and waste and benefits for people. We'll get on to more of that in a little bit of a minute. What I'd like to spend 2 minutes on is a quick recap of last night's Board of Selectmen meeting. 3 developments came out of that meeting, all of them prompted by Mayor Welcome's intention to set up a committee to look into a school closing. First development was Board of Education Chair Susan Hofnagel stood up and chose to reiterate, lest anyone be sufficiently dim-witted or deaf not to have understood the message coming out of the Board of Education thus far, the Board of Education is not closing a school. The Board of Education will not close a school. The Board of Education has no intention of closing a school, has no intention of planning for closing a school, has no intention of analyzing the closing of a school. The Board of Education will not cooperate in any manner at all with the Selectmen's analysis of closing a school. The Board of Education doesn't want to know about closing a school. They expressly said they do not have any desire, any intention, any willingness to talk about money unless that's money for a new school. So the Board of Education isn't going to cooperate, isn't going to be a partner with the Selectmen. Board of Education isn't going to be a partner with the voters. Board of Education isn't going to be a partner with the community. Board of Education has indicated their intention to retreat to the bunker up at Bachelor. They'll huddle in the brand new Board of Education truck, and they will send you a message. And that message is, unless you're going to build us a new school, don't talk to us. Don't write to us, don't call us, don't visit us. We don't want to hear from you. We want your tax checks, and that's all we want. And speaking as a member of the Board of Education, that's a somewhat unnerving place to be. It bodes ill for our town. I am frankly somewhat ashamed that that is where we have come to. But that is what the board position is. That is the message that Susan Hofnagel, Chair of the Board of Education, delivered loud and clear last night at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Development number 2, Mayor Welcome, trying hard to forget that she had just been slapped hard and repeatedly across the face by her Democratic colleague, Susan Hofnagel, reiterated that she intended to continue with her closing a school committee. The reason for that, ladies and gentlemen, and she made this crystal clear, is that she intends that the committee will come out with the result that closing a school will have no savings. So before the committee is even formed, Mayor Welcome has decided what the answer is. No savings at all. Mayor Welcome has decided to give the Board of Education cover. Now you know, and I know, not only that all the kids will fit in 2 schools, but that there are substantial savings to be had from closing a school. And the selectmen know that too. Which is why only one selectman, George Clausen, agreed to have anything to do with this worthless committee. Jim DeVita, no interest. Mike Ronzullo, no interest. Candy from Vacation, no interest. Selectman Fracasso and Albanesius, no interest. And that really underlies the third development, ladies and gentlemen. Selectman Fracasso and Albanesius, recognizing that the people's business has to be done, recognizing that if we are to get any positive results, we must reduce and restructure and reinvest. They indicated a willingness, a desire, a need for us to move on. Obviously, the biggest savings, the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest way to move towards a budget that will begin to satisfy the community in terms of affordability is by achieving savings on the school side of the equation. But if the Board of Education is simply not going to play a partner, if they're not going to play nice in the sandbox, Selectman Albanesius and Fracasso acknowledged that we will have to begin to look for savings on the town side if we are ever to arrive at a budget that works for this community. They suggested that we look at not how much it will cost to close a school, but how much we could save through rationalizing our staff on town. They suggested a proactive program, tax incentives for housing, bringing business in, making the building department more user-friendly. A series of proactive, useful, achievable steps, which Mayor Welcome scoffed at. She said, unless there's money in the budget for a planner, we're not going to do anything. George Clausen said, any direction given to the town manager is meddling. It's micromanagement. It is the job of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to sit on our hands until the sky falls on our heads. Jim DeVita had no view. Mike Ronzullo asked for an extension. He said he would have some sort of response next time. That's where we stand, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we stand. We have a referendum on July 21st, a request for $1 million in tax increases. I, for one, will be voting no on the basis that that referendum, that budget, includes $1 million largely of waste, nothing of real value. Nothing that you, the community, need. No active step towards making this an affordable, sustainable budget that you could support.
I think we should elevate the conversation a little bit, and the focus has been on closing a school, and that's going to be one of the fallouts. But when you look at the numbers in terms of the class size, the amount of kids in the school keeps contracting. The kindergarten coming in is approximately 80 kids. You have to do things, and you have to do them now. You have to collapse the financial system of the town and the education side of the budget. You need one finance director, you need one software program to run it, you need one computer. You need to collapse the administration and the administrative costs on the education side. You can't have headmasters and principals and superintendents and all that other stuff. It's just too much overhead as the system gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But when you look at it, you know, one of the things that is going to fall out if you look at the overall school structure is that you'll probably close a building or two. But the thing you're going to have to focus on is, let's deliver the service. Let's take a look at using the laboratories and the staff at the community college. Several communities are already using, there's a dual program in the state of Connecticut now where high school kids for their junior and senior year can go to the local community college. They can receive a high school diploma, and they can receive a associate's degree from the community college and go on. The laboratories, the science, the biology, all that stuff, the facilities are here in Winsted in a brand new arts and science building at the community college. That shift has to happen, much like the shift, and it's cheaper. It's approximately $3,600 a year per student, plus the lab fees of probably $400 a semester. So you get a better quality product, you get a cost reduction, and you're better utilizing the assets that are here in town. You know, once again, when you look at the shift that's going on in a private high school, the private high school is looking to educate foreign students. That's fine, but the headmaster that is going to run that program shouldn't be subsidized by the town of Winchester. I mean, that's a for-profit venture for a private enterprise that, you know, if it succeeds, that's great. But if it doesn't succeed, we shouldn't be subsidizing that. And lastly, when you look at what's going on and you bring students in from the outside, there's a lot of overhead. I mean, there is a lot of overhead to track the students, to do the paperwork for the State Department and the Department of Homeland Defense. If you want to understand that, you have to put a kid overseas, like my wife and I did, to understand what you have to do. They have to be housed, they have to be tracked, all that stuff has to happen. And you know, when you're bringing kids in, they probably have higher science and math credentials than the students that are here, so they're naturally going to gravitate towards the community college for skill sets. The thing that you're going to be providing on a high school level is probably English as a second language and remedial stuff such as that. You're going to have overhead expenses in those areas, and does that benefit your kids? I don't know. I mean, but you're going to have to look at the overall program. It has to get more efficient, more structured, and more balanced in terms of cost. The cost has to be reduced. And when you look at that and how you deliver the service, what will fall out will be a school will close.
I mean, John makes an excellent point. We need to think more broadly about the services that we have, the services that we want, and how we deliver them, how we pay for them. We have used two sort of shorthand terms both on this program and throughout the political discourse of the last several months. They have been closing a school building and a zero increase. There is no particular magic to either of those two terms. They are both shorthand. Closing a school building is shorthand for eliminating waste, spending smarter, making sure that money, when it is spent, actually gets a result. That's what we mean by closing a building. There are many other examples of doing that. Closing a building is simply the easiest, has the most significant positive impact, and the fastest positive impact. We've talked about others. They include, combining the finance staffs. They include dealing with the administrative burden on the school side. There's $1 million of administrative burden between the various elements of our school structure. That's simply too much. On the town side, they involve all manners of duplicate manning and inefficient ways of delivering services and inefficient ways of paying for services. But we need to look more broadly at what do we really want for our services, what do we absolutely have to have, and how can we begin to deliver those services on a more cost-efficient basis. Gilbert and the Winchester Board has to learn how to play in the sandlot. The Winchester Board and the town have to learn how to play in the sandlot. Having each of them return to their own little bunkers, their own bureaucratic places, and say, I need what I need, and you guys just have to suck it up, that's not helpful.
And it's even in a higher education, at a higher education level, it's happening too. I mean, you've heard Wesleyan is coming out with a program where to reduce the cost to students, they're going to put a program together where they can graduate in 3 years. Several colleges are doing this. Many colleges are going online to deliver services to reduce the cost. So the technology is there, the incentive is there, because you don't want your kids to come out of this whole deal at the end, and by the end I mean after they go to college, burdened with debt. I mean, you want them to come out as knowledgeable, right. Educated citizens that want to work. I mean, there's no magic to this whole deal. You want to move them on to the next step in life, which is to become a functional adult in society. It's not, we're going to tie them back here and you can't go here because we want to keep this money in our little bunker. You got to get rid of that mindset. I mean, I listened to Mimi at the town meeting talk about minimum budget requirement. I've never engaged in any discussion with my wife or my kids
about the MBR.
About the MBR, and my kids are my wife and I are fairly educated. My kids are fairly educated, but we look for various opportunities and we match their skill set against the opportunity, and if they're deficient in one area, we try to boost them. And I mean, we've done that through our whole career. I mean, they didn't go to the most expensive, elementary school. They went to St. Anthony's. I don't know. The metrics being used by the Board of Education have no meaning to me, and I feel I'm fairly good at delivering a service to my kids, so they get educated and they become, active citizens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth remembering, what is it that we want out of both sides of our government? Clearly, out of the schools, we want a system that will support our kids, give them a range of experience, equip them for life. We want them to do okay on their test scores. We want them to come out responsible individuals who are curious, who have the capacity to carry on learning, who have the capacity to embark upon a career in future life. That's what we want. Along the way, we're going to have to satisfy some state mandates. Along the way, we're going to have to jump through some hoops. But generally speaking, the goal of the schools is not, as John says, to satisfy the MBR or to satisfy some obscure legal rule or to make ever more complicated contracts between the Gilbert School and the Winchester Board of Education. The goal of our school system is to teach the kids, is to put the kids in an environment where they will learn from each other and from their teachers and from their parents. And that's what we need to be aiming towards. Likewise, the goal of our town is to provide the essential services that we need. Look, at the end of the day, we need planning and zoning regs. We all understand that. We have a planning and zoning commission. Have the commission do the regs. We don't need a planner. A planner is a crutch. A planner is someone who is going to cost us a great deal of money and who, not appropriately tasked, will produce nothing.
And we've had them before, and they've produced.
A whole lot of paper and nothing else.
I mean, you know, the ultimate goal is to grow your tax base and to develop the town so that it's reasonable, that you have services available to you. I mean, we can plan forever, but until you marry it to some capital investment and you get something done, nobody believes you. I mean, you know, I got started back with this with a charrette in the early 90s, and it was good. It inventoried, you know, what we had, but we never took the next step and implemented a plan to deal with it.
And yeah, some of these plans are going to be difficult, and some plans are not. I mean, getting someone to come in to do a major downtown development is going to take some work. There's going to have an element of luck involved. It's going to take some time. Getting tax incentives in place to allow individual property owners, individual contractors to come in and turn multifamily homes into single owner-occupied homes can be done today. We could institute that today. We could put that in a budget. We could put $250,000 in a budget for tax incentives to convert multifamily homes, and we could begin to have an impact on the neighborhoods today. Because that's where it all starts, ladies and gentlemen. We need to begin to return the neighborhoods to kind of an old-fashioned owner-occupied model, because that's what provides the customers for the downtown. That's what will bring in stores to Main Street. You can't have stores without customers. You can't have customers without that owner-occupied portion of the community. And we need to get cracking on that. We can't wait for a planner. We don't need a planner. We just need to get it going.
You need the incentive, and this is the disincentive. The disincentive is to phase in a decrease in the grand list, because the properties that need to have the taxes abated the most are the ones downtown.
Right.
So to even think about doing that is you've defeated anything you want to do for the next decade if you implement that logic. Okay. The thing you have to do is you have to make it viable. And by viable is you give the incentives to the people to come into the downtown area, to rehab the buildings, to live in them, to go to work from them, and to come home to them. And then to go and spend the money that they earn on businesses downtown. They go hand in hand.
And it's a virtuous circle, because if you begin to have those people coming into your town, you will begin to have employees seeing a stable property market, being willing to bring more business into town. You will begin to see more families coming to town. You'll begin to see more investment to actually satisfy the needs of improving the schools and improving other non-tax producing services that we provide. But you have to start with a tax base. At the end of the day, you, the community, are not going to vote for a budget that you can't afford. You're not going to vote for a budget that you find unsustainable. You're just not. It's not in your interest. You're not going to do it. We therefore have to cut. We have to rationalize. We have to streamline. We have to bring the immediate expenses into line so that you will actually support a budget. And then we absolutely have to take these organizational steps to ensure that we are doing things well. We will not get it right the first time. The paramount need to make reductions and make reductions quickly will mean that we cut too hard in some places and not enough in others. The rationalization, the restructuring process that is the second step, is the process by which we make that right. And those two processes free up the money for the reinvestment. But we got to get going, ladies and gentlemen. We have to get going, and July 21st is your opportunity to have your say. I, for one, will be saying no. I do not believe that this budget does anything that we need it to do. A $930,000 tax increase is not what we need today.
Right. I mean, you have to move and shift the paradigm, and you have to change the model that we're working with. And part of that model shift is you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the expenses are going up, and you have to stop it. The tax base can't sustain any more cost. The property values have dropped so significantly, and you'll see that when the reval is due and posted in December of this year, that there's no more to extract. If you don't realize that your your service area and your service network has lost customers, i.e. kids, and you're unwilling to contract it, and you're trying to bring everything home to have a bunker mentality that we're going to do everything in Winsted, you can't do that. You need partners. You need partners to grow the base so you can spread the service costs, and you have to pick and choose. And Heartland did it 8 or 9 years ago. I mean, they have kids in multiple school systems, and it's working very well. And it would work very well here. I mean, Gilbert isn't the only option. It is an option, but if you can't learn to combine the overhead and administrative staffs, and you can't get the costs down, and you can't shift some of the science and technology for some of the higher end kids down to the community college to reduce costs, then you got to look elsewhere. But we're at loggerheads here, and the rate is not going up. I'm voting no.
That's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. You have a choice to make. If you want to see your taxes go up for no particular benefit, for to have no long-term sustainable path to the viability of this community, that's your choice. Who are we to tell you that you can't make that choice? But we're telling you that we don't see this budget as satisfying the concerns, the needs, the aspirations, or even the long-term viability of this town. And we don't think you should support it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a very happy 4th of July, and we will see you again next week.
Thank you.